I'm Justin Mott, and welcome to my home in Hanoi, Vietnam. And if you're new here, my channel is dedicated to all things photography from the perspective of a full-time working professional photographer. And today I'm launching a brand new mini-series of sorts where I will be breaking this down into 5 different episodes with each image featuring one of my top 5 grossing photos from my entire editorial/personal project career. I will tell you a little bit of a backstory about each image, how it came to be, some of the problems that I had during the shoot, and how I overcame those problems. I'll be giving you some advice and some tips along the way. I'll also give you some advice on how to get your archive working for you to help generate extra income for your photography business. And if you stay tuned until the end of the episode, I'll tell you roughly how much I made from each image. So let's start with number 5 on my list and let's talk photography. So as always, guys, don't forget to check out my online store at justinmott.com, where I've got presets, I've got prints for sale, shipping within the US and Canada only, and I've also got a ton of packages for those of you interested in one-on-one coaching, and I've got something brand new as well. I just started my membership program here on YouTube. No, don't worry, my regular content will be available for free, but I've got bonus content available for $4.99 a month. It's a great way to support the channel, but more importantly, it's a great way to get extra exclusive content. I will have weekly live streams available to members only. You'll get priority in the comment section, which means I will be answering your questions first, and I'll also have a ton of extra bonus content on there as well. Tips, behind the scenes, all sorts of stuff to help you improve your photography. So check that out by hitting the join button below. So I decided to do this episode not because I wanted to talk about like how much money I make, because that's not very flattering at all, especially early on in my career doing editorial work and doing personal work. You're not really in it for the money. If you are, you've picked the wrong career. But there are some opportunities out there if you push yourself, if you understand the industry, if you understand how to get your archive working for you. Most of these examples I'm going to show you, the day rate was a very measly day rate, like barely anything, but I made all the money in the back end, sometimes years later. So you just never know. I just wanted to show you guys what's possible. Again, these are not the norm, but I thought they'd be kind of fun to talk about because it can happen, but they're not going to happen on their own. You're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to watch this whole episode and apply some of these things I'm going to tell you. So let's start with this image here. This was an assignment I did many years ago, I think like 7 or 8 years ago, for Forbes magazine in the US. And I got this job through my agency in the US. And the agency model has changed. They do still exist. It used to be 75-25 split, meaning I get 75% of the rate and they get 25. I think that model has now shifted more to like 50-50. I don't do so much work with my agency anymore. And then the split for archive sales and things like that tends to be about 50-50, just for those of you interested in how that breaks down. So this was an assignment, again, through Forbes US, again, through my agency, and it was a day rate of about $500, I believe, at the time. That was my day rate plus expenses, but since I was in Hanoi, there was very minimal expenses, maybe lighting, rental fee, an assistant, and transportation. That was about it. So the assignment was for their annual billionaire issue, and they were going to feature Vietnam's first billionaire. And so the way this came to be was this guy was actually quite difficult to get access to. I was told at the time he had never really sat for like an official portrait before. So it was basically what happened was Forbes Vietnam got access. So there's a writer here for Forbes Vietnam. They got access to him again, which was very rare. But I was doing the assignment through Forbes New York, again, through my agency. So, and the reason I bring that up is I'll tell you later because it's an interesting backstory towards the end. So that was the assignment. So I talked to his people talked to my people. Well, he like actually had people. I had like one person talk to him. So I did have a person. So does that mean I had people? Anyway, I had a person. They talked to his people and we agreed on time, agreed on a date, and it was basically like 15 minutes, like a hard out. 15 minutes, that's all you're going to get. I was like, all right, doable, right? So I asked him if we could go and scout the day before, and we did. We went to his office. This is where he wanted to do everything. Everything had to be done on his office, on his terms, within his timeline. Fine, billionaire, get it. And he wanted it done like in this wall in his downstairs was like this artwork, and there was a painting, and then there was this other wall, and that's kind of where he wanted to do everything. And when we scouted, not thrilled about it, to be honest, not very happy, didn't look very exciting, and I was like, all right. And this issue was interesting because sometimes they'll do double truck, sometimes do full page, sometimes you might just get like a little thumbnail. So I push. I wanted the double truck. Cover would be hard because it's going to be based on like who they really want to feature. But if I got a good shot, I could get like a big image displayed. If I just got their shot, the headshot that they kind of wanted me to do, then yeah, not so great for me. So we scouted, brought our lighting, had my assistant stand in, had our shots, figured I could crank these out in like 10 minutes, enough variety, a vertical, a horizontal, some tight shots, some different poses, 2 different backdrops, just as much as I can get in that small amount of time. So On the day of, we showed up. He seemed kind of nice. I had this other idea that I'd scouted. If he had given me more time, again, planning is important, but also leaving your mind open to other things as they present themselves is important, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And so, I got to talking to him, got the shots, executed them technically, fine, focus, all that, lighting was all good, all worked, but not exciting. It was their shots, not my shots. And as a photographer on any job, big or small, I want to show my shots. I want to show what I can do creatively. So, I had this idea of taking him out, not 5 minutes away from his office because he's a real estate developer, and I wanted to have he had some of these projects under construction, not far from his office. So that was kind of the sell. So, I got to talking to him a little bit of my Vietnamese, a little bit of his English. I was kind of buttering him up a little bit. My play isn't charm. I don't know if I'm very charming, but I'm excited and I'm enthusiastic. So I had this idea. I kind of played into the fact that hey, man, this is a big issue. I didn't say man. I said, hey, dude. I didn't say dude. I said this is a huge, issue. This is a billionaire issue. You're going to be in this issue with some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world. So this is all right, but we get something better if you give me 30 more minutes. So his assistant tried to block this and stop this from happening, and I knew that was going to happen. So I went directly to him, and he kind of laughed and was like, all right, but I sold them because I was enthusiastic. And that's an important little lesson here. As a photographer, we're selling ourselves, or we're selling our pictures all the time. You're selling your subject on doing something maybe a little bit outside of their comfort zone, or you're selling them on giving you more time to get your picture, or you're selling an editor on an idea or a concept or a story that you shot, or you're selling a wedding client on your body of work. It's a sell. You have to be excited. You have to be enthusiastic about it. And then you have to show that enthusiasm to sell them on it. So I was excited. My enthusiasm came through. I think I got him a little bit excited about it. So I was able to get him to go to this location. Again, it was going to give me another 15, 20 minutes. And so we get there, it started to drizzle a little bit. I'm like, oh, damn. And he kind of gave me this look we still doing this? His security guys brought their umbrellas out. I'm like, yeah, I kind of gave him that look we're definitely still doing this. Please don't say no. He was polite. We got out of the car. The rain let up a little bit. And I'm kind of a weird one the way I shoot. I'm very much an editorial photographer. I mean, that's my background, right? I'm an assignment photographer. I'm a photojournalist. So I do plan, but I'm not great at planning conceptually ahead of time. I kind of do it on the spot. And I leave my mind open to things on the spot, which is kind of what you have to be a good photojournalist, because you don't know what you're walking into most of the time. You have to be open to things happening visually in front of you and to be able to adapt and capture those things. You're not setting things up. Life is happening on its own, and you have to be there to capture it. Now, I also do a lot of commercial work where I apply the same thing, and it's not great for my team. They kind of hate me for it because we're doing hotel shoots, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, this is the shot, and they set everything up, and there's models and lighting and all that, and then I'm like, oh no, wait, the day of. But then the day of, sometimes oh, I didn't see that little shaft of light back there, and what if we got someone to walk through, and what if I had a ladder, and they hate it, but that's how I work, and that's how I work best, and that's how I get some of my best images. So I believe in it, and I sell it. I sell it to my team. I sell it to myself. And what I mean by that is I don't just I don't just have an idea and saying well, it's gonna be a pain, or they're not gonna agree with it, or they're not gonna want to do it. I don't do it that way. I make it happen. So this is what happened. I had the shot, which was better than the inside shot of him outside in front of the real estate. But at the last minute, I saw these two gardeners with the conical hats, quintessential Vietnamese conical hats. And yes, that can easily go in a very cliche way, but I thought it would work well for this because it's not a long photo story and it's a portrait. And I thought it's a quick and easy way to bring people to Vietnam. The conical hat is an easy read, but I thought I could do it in an interesting way and use them as my foreground. So, a lot of people might see it and oh, that would be cool, but they just kind of dismiss it because of the pressure. But that's kind of where I shine. I'm I'm selling him, I'm going there. I see an extra layer. I can work fast. So I quickly turned to my assistant, can you go talk to them real quick? And can you wait a sec while I do that and get them? And he's kind of half rolling his eyes. But again, my enthusiasm, my excitement, and me believing in myself and believing in the shot, sold him on it. So my team went and got the two gardeners. They were happy to be a part of it. They were smiling. They were giggling. So I used them as my foreground and, put him right in the middle, had the real estate in the background. And now I have a layered shot, a more dynamic shot. And it paid off in the end. It was quick. It was another maybe 30 extra minutes than he agreed upon. But in the end, I don't think he was unhappy about it. And in the end, my editor loved it, So Forbes Vietnam ran sort of the boring headshot. I understand because they needed a cover shot, needed a vertical. But Forbes US, they ran a double truck spread, and I got an extra $500 from that. And they were really happy, and I'm sure his team was happy to get such a big spread. And again, it was just a more dynamic shot. If I had settled for their shot, then I wouldn't have got this. And I wouldn't have got what I'm going to talk about next, which was a huge bonus. So you're going to say to yourself, Well, okay, great. So you got $1,000. So that's one of the biggest selling images of your career. That's what I have to look forward to. No, other things happened after that, and I made a lot more money from this. And here's what happened. So after the shoot, again, agency happy, magazine happy, Forbes Vietnam not happy, because what happened was his people contacted me afterwards, and they wanted a full buyout of the images that I shot for that entire day. So what that means is they wanted to own the entire set of images that I took for that entire shoot, for that 45 minutes. But I work fast, and I had a lot of different options, so there was a lot of images. It was maybe like 50 to 100 images. I can't remember, but it was a good amount. And I wasn't sure if they knew what full buyout meant, but what it would mean normally is they own all the images. They can use it however they want for as long as they want, and I don't own it. So they own the raws or the negatives, meaning, and I can't even use the images on my portfolio or anywhere. So normally in the US, that's quite a significant payout. So my agency put together a proposal they were excited about. Again, this is a $500 assignment that turned into a $1,000 shoot for me. And after the fees, I got like $700. So it wasn't like a big shoot. It was fine at the time, but here's the deal. So full buyout, my agency got all excited, and they kind of quoted based on the US market. They didn't really know the Asian market that well. And they kind of did it based on a job they sold to Charles Schwab for similar thing, for like a full buyout from like a one-day shoot. And it was like $100,000. And I was like, yeah, awesome. But there's no way they're going to go for this. I know Vietnam. I know the market. I could kind of sense by their email, that they didn't expect to pay like much at all. And then I was like, I don't think they're going to go for that. So they scaled it back. And I think they came up with something like $50,000 or $60,000. And still, I was like, that's not going to work. They're going to think we're crazy. But I presented it. I figured, why not? He is a billionaire. And that's not why we quoted this amount. I mean, full buyout, you get a decent amount of money for this kind of stuff. So we presented it to him. And then within like 24 hours later, I got this nasty message from the Forbes Vietnam writer, the one that set up this access, the one that got that rare access to this guy. And she was like, what are you doing? You're trying to extort this guy just because he's rich. I can't believe you're trying to charge him so much. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. They came to me. They wanted this. They wanted a full buyout of the images, which is like a big deal. They didn't have to do that. They could buy some images for a full buyout, or not a full buyout of just a few images and to use commercially or however they want. And that's a different price range. She's like, I don't care. And then it comes out, she's like, I don't care. She got all nasty and upset, like thinking I was trying to extort this guy. First of all, I'm smart enough to know, and I've lived here long enough to know, and even at that time, I'm not trying to extort or trying to rip off. I'm not trying to have one of the country's most powerful men mad at me. Like, that's not what I want. So it was stressful. Like, honestly, that was a really stressful time for me, because she's mad at me, and I was like, listen, you guys need to talk to, you should talk to Forbes New York, where you guys answer to, and have them explain to you a little bit how photographers work and the buyouts work. And she's like, I don't need to know that. And then it turns out she had promised him all my images for free. So that's what happened. That's why they were upset, which I understand why being upset. If you thought something was going to cost $0, then all of a sudden it's going to cost $60,000. Yeah, I understand the confusion. I understand why people would be kind of livid about it. And then I was livid at her. I'm like, these aren't your images to give away. Don't you understand how this works? I'm like, I own the copyright to these images. You should know this kind of stuff as a writer and working in our field. Like, the photographer owns the rights, not you. Unless we agreed upon something different, and I didn't sign anything or agree upon anything verbally. So, no. So she was upset. She's lost face, all that. And I was like, fine, but again, not my fault, your fault. It's trying to be nice. So my agency still wanted to get that kind of amount. They thought we should fight for it. And I thought, no, I mean, if she promised $0 and we're trying to charge that amount, forget it. So I decided to broker the deal myself. I talked to his people myself, and I tried to get an understanding of what they wanted and why they wanted a full buyout. It turns out they were a little bit confused, which is fine. Most people don't really understand the copyright thing. Most people don't understand the usage thing. And a lot of photographers are quick to be upset and offended, and then they usually say that in email, and that usually ruins the entire deal. And I was patient. I explained to them, listen, this is what this means. I would, if you full buyout, I can't use them ever anyhow. You could do a partial buyout, or you could just use some images for commercial use yourself. And, so the conversation started to progress. The tension started to settle a little bit. And one of the big things, luckily, again, communication, was they thought, if they didn't do the full buyout, that I could sell his images commercially, meaning I could sell his images for an ad campaign or something like that, which I can't. I didn't have a model release form. He didn't agree to it, nor would he. And nor is it legal for me to do this. So they didn't understand that. That's why they wanted the full buyout. So I explained that to them. Again, they were worried. I don't know who they thought I was going to sell the image commercially to, Nike ad campaign, Vietnam's first billionaire, or maybe some Bitcoin. Well, that was way before Bitcoin, but you know what I mean. So, but no, that wasn't my intentions. My intentions were to put these images in my archive and sell them for editorial purposes. So if another magazine wanted to buy them, they could buy them through my agency and license them that way, fine. But not commercially, not for advertising, and definitely not without his permission. So after some talking, I understood what they wanted. They understood where I was coming from. And they just wanted like a few images for them to use commercially, and they were okay with me using them for editorial purposes. So it worked out great. And in the end, what we came up with a package for like around $10,000-ish. And it was, again, a certain amount of images, and it wasn't exclusive ownership of those images. So, it worked out quite well. What easily could have escalated into like no deal at all, or worst case, like me disappearing and never doing this episode, turned into quite a nice little sale, especially at that point in my career, or any time in my career, that's a nice sale. But especially if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, a $500 assignment turned into $12,000-ish. So that was kind of nice. A couple lessons to unpack here. One was no matter what kind of shoot you're on, no matter how much you're getting paid for the assignment, come up with a good idea, be prepared, fight for these ideas, sell these, not fight, but like sell people on these ideas. If you're excited about it, if you're enthusiastic about it, other people will be too. Some of the best photographers out there are at a similar skill levels as the ones below them, but they're able to sell people on this concept. They're able to sell the subject, the editor, the client, whoever that may be, on these, interesting concepts that are probably a little bit more work and require some more time. But it's worth it. You just never know. Not all the time does this happen, but you never know. That's the point here. And then another little lesson here is if something comes up in the moment, something you planned for, but you think it might work, go for it. Fight for it. Make it happen. Like push your team, push the subject, sell people on making it happen. Because that's what happened here. Again, the other shots, okay, but that wouldn't have turned into this. If I didn't fight for that shot, if I didn't look around a little bit and take a moment and then see that, and a lot of photographers do see it, but they don't act on it. I'm not unique in seeing it, but I think I'm unique in acting on it. I have a lot of friends that, that would have been or that could have been. I don't want to live my life that way as a photographer. Not, I could have or I would have. No, I did. That's the lesson here is I did. Again, I've already had pushed him to go a little bit longer and we were finishing up, but then I saw that and that was going to require a little bit more work, a little more moving parts there, but I pushed, it happened, it turned into this, and it turned into one of my more successful editorial shoots financially and just creatively. And my editor was very happy. Again, my agency was very happy as well. And then another little lesson to understand here is to understand your rights as a photographer, understand the copyright of your images. Don't let a writer decide that like they own it because they don't, you do. And don't let people give away your images without asking. Don't let people take your images without asking. Fight for that kind of stuff. It's a tough battle, but you got to fight it. And then lastly, make sure your archive works for you, because in addition to that sale that I made, I also had my images through my agency and they sold it to other magazines. That ended up being some extra income as well through the years. So, when your images just sit there afterwards, they don't do anything. So look for opportunities with different stock agencies. I know the stock industry is not fantastic, but in stuff like this, like if you know the market, this is like editorial stock and this was rare, and I sold through an agency that sells these kind of rare shots, then it works well. So, and also there's opportunity to sell direct and putting on your website as well. So, when your images are done, when your assignment's done, your images aren't done. A lot of times my images earn much more after the shoot than they did for the shoot, if that makes sense. So hope you guys like this episode. I've got 4 more coming. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'm going to show you this image here as a little teaser. That should be coming soon. This one was long. The other ones won't be as long because this story had a lot of different layers. Not just the picture had layers, the story had layers as well. The other ones I'll try to keep a lot shorter. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Again, don't forget to check out my online store. Don't forget to join my membership program for $4.99 a month. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And lastly, don't forget to have a wonderful day.